artist is the first woman to win Album of the Year 3 times. She was also named Artist of the Decade in 2019 and recently overtook the top 10 spots in the Billboard's Hot 100. All these achievements and many more belong to none other than Taylor Swift. Taylor got her start right here in Tennessee. Her career shifting from a Nashville sweetheart to a global superstar has allowed her to completely influence the music industry. I myself have attended the Taylor Swift Museum, 2 of her concerts, and have firsthand experience with the pre-sale disaster for the Eras Tour. Through her negotiations with streaming services, the continued fight for her masters, and continued record-breaking sales, she has set a new precedent of what to expect from artists. Let me explain one of the first times she had the upper hand with music companies. After the release of her pop album, 1989, she had open debate with 2 major streaming services. In 2014, Taylor removed her catalog off of Spotify in response to their free tier having lower payouts for artists. In an op-ed she wrote for the Wall Street Journal, she said, "Music should not be free, and my prediction is that individual artists and their labels will someday decide what an album's price point is." The next year, Apple released their own streaming service with a free 3-month trial, which would not be paying artists any royalties. Taylor immediately went to Tumblr to post an open letter discussing her disappointment with this decision. In 2017, she returned to all streaming platforms to celebrate 100 million song certification from the Recording Industry Association. But this notably came after major policy changes in both industries. After settling business with streaming services, let's move on to more recent news with her re-recordings. Taylor's new record deal with Republic Records has allowed her to advocate for an artist's entitlement for their masters. In 2019, she released the first album she owned, Lover, and at the same time announced her plans to re-record her previous 6 albums to regain monetary and creative control. Here's Taylor making that announcement with Good Morning America.
Yeah, that's true, and it's something that I'm very excited about doing because my contract says that starting November 2020, so next year, I can record albums 1 through 5 all over again. So I'm very excited about it because
why is this so important to you?
because I think that artists deserve to own their work. I just feel very passionately about that.
As you can see, Taylor has the power to influence public opinion by giving the details of how record labels work. Like Taylor, many artists have 5-year contracts, and they can use her success with the re-recordings as their own bargaining chip in negotiations for their royalties. Along with the record deal, she's used the dominance of streaming services to completely undermine the validity of the original albums, as you can see here in this graph. Berkeley Music Journal stated that Red Taylor's version broke 2 Spotify records the day of its release. While we wait for more re-records, the Eras Tour is already underway, making major headlines before it even started. The Ticketmaster pre-sale disaster allowed for a closer look in the monopoly of live event ticket sales. According to Ticketmaster, on November 15th of last year, 3.5 billion system requests were made for the verified fan program, even though only 1.5 million had access codes. Complaints such as high wait times, excessive charges, and glitches are all the basis of a lawsuit from hundreds of fans against Ticketmaster and Live Nation. The lawsuit is for misrepresentation, antitrust violations, and fraud. The federal government is also taking notice and action, with a hearing earlier this year expressing bipartisan concern over the 2010 merger of Live Nation and Ticketmaster. The Department of Justice and several attorney generals are also undergoing their own investigations. To summarize, Taylor Swift has made major effect and influences in multiple companies across the music industry. Her fearless negotiation with streaming services such as Spotify and Apple have allowed for major changes in the streaming model. She chose to speak now for artists' rights for their masters and a commitment to re-record her previous 6 albums. The demand for her tour made fans red with anger over the missteps of Ticketmaster and has allowed a closer look into the live monopoly of entertainment sales. One thing is for sure, the 1989 singer's reputation precedes her. With her and her fans alike, both lovers of music, she's created a folklore around her interpretation of how the music industry should be. And this impact might last evermore. Taylor Swift's midnights have become her afternoons, working around the clock to make examples of these music corporations.